Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. Now we're coming near the end of this series of my top 10, 15, 20, 30 albums from each of the years 1965 to 1989, and today it is going to be 1989, which means that there's only going to be 1979 and 1973 left. Now originally I was just going to do a top 15, then changed it to the top 20, and now I've actually changed it again to a top 25. And the reason being is in 1989 there seemed to be a bit of a resurgence of the older artists, and some of them, the albums are actually really good. So you'll find this list has got sort of half the older artists and half the newer artists. So as normal, there's going to be three bubbling unders, and they are Status Quo's Perfect Remedy, an album that most Quo people can't stand, but I do like it. I do like the singles Not At All and Little Dreamer, and I love the song Address Book, which is like a little country type song, but it is more or less like a Francis Rossi solo album. My other bubbling under is the Bee Gees' One, with two fantastic singles, Ordinary Lies and the brilliant One, which was a big hit in America. Other good tracks include Tokyo Nights. It's not their best album, but it's not bad. It was an improvement on ESP anyway from '87. And my third bubbling under is UB40, Labour of Love 2. Yes, it's all cover versions, but you get great tracks like Homely Girl, Kingston Town, Where You Do the Ball, and Here I Am, really good. So those are three bubbling unders. So getting into the top 25, and my number 25 is Elvis Costello and Spike, and this is not a bad album. It starts off really well with This Town, and it's got Veronica on it, which was co-written with Paul McCartney. I also do like Miss Macbeth. I think it's a good song, as is Satellite. Let 'Em Dangle is a pretty good song as well. I think this is just a little bit too long, but it's not a bad album, and it gets my 25. Now, talking of Paul McCartney at 24, you might think this is too low, and it's Flowers in the Dirt. And again, it's an okay album. I don't think this is as good as Press to Play, by the way, but it has some really good tracks on this, like Put It There is beautiful. This one is a brilliant single. My Brave Face, I think, is a good track, but not as good as a lot of people tend to think. Motor of Love, I'm not that keen on, and I just don't like Rough Ride at all. But You Want Her Too, We Got Married, and Don't Be Careless Love are not bad. That Day Is Done, I think, is another one done with Elvis Costello, which I think is quite good as well. And Distractions is not one of his best ballads. It's okay. It's an alright album. It's not brilliant, but it gets my 24. Now at 23 we have Queen and The Miracle, and this has gone up a little bit for me. I do like the singles off it, especially The Invisible Man and Breakthrough, although the single version of Breakthrough is better than the album version. It seems to be a little bit slow, the album version. Scandal's a good single as well. I Want It All, not one of my favourites, but it's okay. I do like Party Going Into Khashoggi's Ship. I think it's a very, very good opener for the album. Decent album. The Miracle as well was a single. 5 singles taken off this. The Miracle seems to be a song that's like 2 songs sort of stitched together. But it's a decent album, but I hate that cover and I detest that back cover. But The Miracle gets my number 23. At number 22, and we have Alton John and Sleeping with the Past. And this wasn't a huge hit in '89, but it did become a huge hit in 1990 whenever they re-released the song Sacrifice, and it got to number 1. Sacrifice was actually the first single off this, and it didn't do too well, followed by Healing Hands, which didn't do too well either. But this is almost like going back to the 60s, the Motowny type sound. Durban Deep's good opener. Whispers, a beautiful ballad. Club at the End of the Street is one of the most 60s sounding Elton John song you'll ever get, but it is good. Amazes Me is okay. Blue Avenue is a very good song, but Sacrifice for me is the highlight of it. It's one of his best ever singles. It is a good album, and it's better than anything he had done since probably Too Low for Zero. So Sleeping with the Past gets my number 22. Now at number 21, I wasn't even going to put this in the list until I played it last week, and I thoroughly enjoyed it this time, and it's Mike Oldfield's Earth Moving. Yes, it does have a dated sound, and there are all songs, there's no actual instrumental pieces, and I think the only other album to have that is Man on the Rocks from around 2011 or so. But you get an awful lot of different singers in this. For example, the song Nothing But is sung by Carol Kenyon. Now she was the girl that sang on Heaven 17's Temptation. Good track. Innocent, the single off this, I think is brilliant, and it's Anita Hegerland. Blue Night is another brilliant track, and this time it is Maggie Riley. Fantastic. Now Holy, I think, was a single in Europe, and it's sung by Adrian Belew, which is a really good track. Now I will admit I do prefer the girls singing Mike Oldfield's songs to the boys. For example, not that keen on the song Hostage, but the title track itself I think is a pretty good song. Very dated in sound, but I've got to really like it. Far Country is a pretty good song as well, as is Bridge to Paradise. Although Nothing But is like a medley with Bridge to Paradise. I don't know why they do that, because they're two completely separate songs and there is a gap between them. But this is a much better album than I gave credit for, and it gets my number 21. And number 20, and we have Bob Dylan and Oh Mercy. Now these are all the older artists, as you'll see, and I do like this. I think it's very good. It's the sound of this, it's very, very clean, it's very well produced by Daniel Lanois. Political World's not one of my favourites, but it's not a bad track. Where Teardrops Falls, very nice. Everything is Broken. Ring Them Bells is one of the better songs off this. I think Shooting Star is the best of the lot, although tracks like Most of the Time, What Good Am I think are really good. It's very, very laid back album, and as I say, it's the sound of this more than the actual songs themselves, so it's the overall feel of this album rather than the individual songs, and it gets my number 20, and it is probably his best of the 1980s. At number 19, and we're still sticking with the oldies, and it's the Rolling Stones' Steel Wheels. And there was 3 singles off this. Mixed Emotions was the first single. It's a good song. Rock in a Hard Place is very standard Stones. It's okay, it's not brilliant. And Almost Hear You Sigh, I think, is a really nice track. But you get some really good songs, like Sad 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 is a very, very good opener. Continental Drift is one of the better songs off this, because it is a different sound. It's got a very Eastern sound, but it's very good. Slipping Away is the best song off the album, with Keith singing. It's absolutely gorgeous. And Hold On to Your Hat is okay. Terrifying is okay. I do like Break the Spell. It's got a little bit of a rockabilly feel to it, but it's a decent album, so it gets my number 19. And at number 18, and it's going to be Chris Rea and The Road to Hell. Now, The Road to Hell Part 1 and Part 2 are absolutely brilliant, and you have to hear the two of them together. Part 1 is so haunting. He's stuck in the middle of the highway, the rain is beating down, and he sees this woman walking up to him, and it's his dead mother, and she's asking him, where are you going? And he's saying, I'm going to paradise, blah 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 blah, the Valley of the Rich or whatever. And she says, son, you're on the road to hell. And it's so good. And then it goes into the hit single, which is The Road to Hell Part 2, which is excellent. But there are other really good songs on this, like Texas is very good. And my favourite is Daytona. I love it, absolutely love it. I love the backing vocals off it. Tell Me There's a Heaven was a single. It's a nice song, but I wouldn't say it was one of my favourites. Your Warm and Tender Love is very good. That's What They Always Say, another good track. It's a very good album, and it gets my number 18. And at number 17 is Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson and YU Iorta, which I think is a really good, strong album. American Music is the opener in this fantastic song. The Loner is the only one I'm not that keen on. It's just a standard rock song. Women's Intuition is very Stonesy, and I think the Stones would have loved to have recorded that. Big Time, Ian Hunter has a habit of doing one of those sort of rockabilly type songs, and I think is great. Living in the Heart's a beautiful ballad. Sons and Lovers not bad. Tell Me Like It Is a very good song as well. Unfortunately, there's one track off this which was not on the vinyl album, but it was on the CD, and it's How Much More Can I Take? I think that's what you call it, which would have been the best song off it. I wish it was on the vinyl, but it's a really good, strong album, and it gets my number 17. At number 16, and we have XTC and Oranges and Lemons, double album, really good. I love the opener, Garden of Earthly Delights, which has got a very Eastern feel to it. Merely a Man has got a bit of a Black Sea feel to it, and it's very, very catchy chorus. One in a Million is a very good song. I think Poor Skeleton Steps Out is actually quite funky, and Scarecrow People is very catchy. The singles off this were The Mayor of Simpleton, which is great. King for a Day has never been one of my favourites. I know a lot of XTC fans love it, but it's never been one of mine. And the other single is The Loving, which is very good. So XTC and Oranges and Lemons gets my number 16. And number 15 is Kate Bush and Sensual World. Now the thing about this album is this taken me so long to get into. I think it's the hardest of all her albums, from her first run from the Kicking Side up to the Red Shoes, to get into. But still, it's got the Sensual World on it, which is great, as is Love and Anger, and then the beautiful This Woman's Work. It's the rest of the album I actually struggled with for a long time, but I have come round to things like The Fog. I think is great. Deeper Understanding is a very good track as well. Between a Man and a Woman and Never Be Mine. They're good songs, but they're not immediate, and as I say, hard to get into, but I'm getting there, and it gets my number 15. Now at number 14 we have Erasure and Wild, and I think this is a brilliant album. This is filled with hit singles. It starts off with a little instrumental called Piano Song, which is great, and then you get Blue Savannah, love it, big hit single, and then Drama as well as another great one. You Surround Me I think was maybe the first single off this, which is very good, and Star, absolutely brilliant. And La Gloria has got a very Mexican feel to it. It's really good fun. This is really good pop music. Okay, it's synthesized pop music, but I think this is their best album, and it gets my number 14. And at number 13, and this is real pop music, and it's Belinda Carlisle and Runaway Horses, and this is riddled with hit singles as well. Starts off with Leave a Light On, which I love. My favourite track is the title track, Runaway Horses. Vision of You is very good. Summer Rain, another hit single, love it. La Luna, another hit single, absolutely love it. We Want the Same Thing, another hit single, I really like it as well. And you get a song called Shades of Michelangelo, which is a really decent sort of ballad, and I think she wrote that herself, I'm not sure, but really, really strong album, and I think it's her best as well. So Belinda Carlisle gets my number 13. At number 12 we have Transvision Vamp and Velveteen. Yeah, this starts off brilliantly with Baby I Don't Care, huge big hit. The Only One, my favourite track off this, good rockin' hit single, and my second favourite is Landslide of Love, which has got a very Phil Spector type feel to it. Falling for a Gold Mine could have been a huge hit if it was released as a single. Down to You is the only one I'm not that keen on. Song to the Stars is a bit cringy, but it's alright. Kiss Their Sons, it gets on all the compilations, it's a good track. Born to be Sold was another hit single, which I didn't like at the time, but I do now. Bad Valentine and Pay the Ghosts are pretty good, and Velveteen is a big sort of 7-8 minute epic, which I think is excellent. So Transvision Vamp, Velveteen gets my number 12. At number 11 we have Roy Orbison and Mystery Girl, and this is his comeback album, and then he passed away. Actually, this was actually released after he passed away. Has the big hit single You Got It on it, written by Roy, Jeff Lynne and Tom Petty, brilliant. In the Real World's not bad, and Dream You is very good. I Love So Beautiful is another Jeff Lynne song, which I think is very good as well. California Blue, gorgeous. Bono and The Edge provide She's a Mystery to Me, which I think was the second single off this, excellent as well. And The Comedians, which is a cover of a song from Elvis Costello's Goodbye Cruel World album, but Roy Orbison's version is the best. The Only One's fine. Windsurfer is just pure Orbison, and the last track is Careless Heart, which is an Albert Hammond song, which is good. Yeah, big hit album for him, and it's just a pity that he passed away just before it was released. So that gets my number 11. At number 10, and we have Van Morrison and Avalon Heart, and again, like all Van Morrison albums in the 80s, this is so well produced. It has the hit single Whenever God Shines His Light with Cliff Richard on it, and I remember seeing the two of them on Top of the Pops. Now Cliff Richard is older than Van Morrison, I think, but he looked, Van Morrison looks like his father on it. They just look completely different. Contacting My Angels, pretty good as well. My favourite track off this is Daring Night, absolutely love it, and I love These Are the Days. Orange Tree's pretty good, and Whenever I Learned to Live in God, excellent as well. Coney Island, where he talks about going and getting these fritters and all the rest of it in his Northern Ireland voice, really, really good. Beautiful album. Just like, I think I actually do prefer Van in the 80s now than I do the 70s, but still gets my number 10, Avalon Heart. Now, at number 9, this one wasn't even going to be considered until I played it. Now, I bought this album about 4 or 5 years ago, and I don't think I actually ever played it. And because I thought it sounded like one of the singles, and I don't know why I bought it. I think it was in Tesco's or something. I thought, I'll get it. And it's the Stone Roses, and I was so surprised whenever I played this last week. This is a really good album with really good catchy songs. Now, I thought this would sound like Fool's Gold, which I don't mind the Fool's Gold single, which is not on this actually, but it's very, very dancey. This is not dancey, this is indie rock, and it is really good indie rock. Like I Wanna Be Adored is great, and She Bangs the Drum is great. Don't Stop is so psychedelic, it's unbelievable, but it's excellent. The only track I'm not keen on is I Am the Resurrection, because it does go into sort of a freak out near the end. But Elizabeth My Dear, Maiden Stone, this is the one. They're all really catchy indie songs, and if I'm to do this list in a couple of years time, this will probably be higher. It's just I don't know it as well as some of the other albums, but it still gets in my top 10 at number 9. And at number 8 we have Frank by Squeeze, and this is such an underrated album. Starts off with Frank, which is just about a noodling whatever, and then you get the single If It's Love, which I think is excellent. Peyton Place and Rose I Said are not bad. Slaughtered, Gutted and Heartbroken is sung by Chris Difford, and he also does Love Circles as well. And this is the thing I like about this album, he does sing 2 songs. I always like Chris Difford to have 1 or 2 on the album. This Could Be the Last Time is a brilliant track, as is Melody Motel. You also get Jules Holland's best ever song, or one of his best ever songs, with Dr. Jazz. And the closer of the album, Is It Too Late, is a really good catchy track. Very, very good album. Sold absolutely nothing, and I think they were dropped by A&M after this, but it still gets my number 8. At number 7, and we have Tom Petty and Full Moon Fever, and this is his solo album, although you wouldn't know it because I think Mike Campbell's all over this. Free Fallin', absolutely love it, never got fed up with it. I Won't Back Down just sounds like the Wilburys, but it's really, really good. Running Down a Dream, not a bad single, but it's side 2 that I really like here. Feel a Whole Lot Better, I think, is a great version of the Byrds track from their Mr. Tambourine album. You're So Bad, extremely catchy. The Apartment song, absolutely love it. It was actually the B-side of I Won't Back Down. Alright For Now, pretty good. A Mind with a Heart of Its Own, excellent. And Zombie Zoo is really good fun. This is what got me into Tom Petty. Well, it was actually the song Last Night from Traveling Wilburys Volume 1, and then this is what I bought in 1989. It's an excellent album. Now, I have got a little bit fed up with this, but in playing it again I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it gets my number 7. And at number 6 we have Lou Reed and New York, and this is probably his most critically acclaimed album of the 80s. The opener, Romeo Had Juliet, I think is great, and then you get 3 of his best in a row ever, with Halloween Parade, Dirty Boulevard and Endless Cycle. I think they're all magnificent. Busload of Faith is not a bad song. Sick of You, I can remember the barman in our university at the time, because I was at university in '89, playing that a lot. Good Evening Mr. Walheim is a great song. Straw Man, quite heavy. Excellent album. Maybe a little bit too long for one vinyl disc, but still, brilliant album, and it gets number 6. And at number 5 we have Kirsty MacColl and Kite, and this is her second album. Innocence, great. Free World single, great. Mother's Ruin, another fantastic song, and then she does the version of Days by Ray Davis. No Victims, going into 15 minutes, brilliant again. So that's the whole side 1. And then side 2 opens with a country-ish Don't Come the Cowboy With Me, Sonny Jim. What a title for a song, really good. Tread Lightly is okay. Dancing in Limbo I've always loved, and You and Me Baby, pretty good. Very, very strong album from Kirsty MacColl, and it's regarded as her best. I don't know if it is, but it's up there, and it gets my number 5. And at number 4 we have The Primitives and Pure, and this is their second album, their first being Lovely from 1988. There's 3 hit singles off this, well, 3 singles anyway. Sick of It, which is actually quite a heavy song. Secrets, extremely catchy, and Way Behind Me, which I think is extremely catchy as well. But it starts off with Outside, followed by Summer Rain, which are 2 gorgeous songs. A lot of these songs are just really catchy little 2.5 minute tracks. For example, Dizzy Heights is one of the catchiest ones I've ever done. Lonely Streets is great, Can't Bring Me Down, Never Tell. Now they do a version of I'll Be Your Mirror, but it's not featured on the vinyl version, it's on the original CD version, which is great as well. But yeah, excellent album. I just love the 3 first Primitives albums. I do have the one from about 2012 or so, which I need to revisit, but those first 3 before they broke up are brilliant, and this gets my number 4. Now at number 3 I'm going to give it to Tin Machine, and yes, Tin Machine is a brilliant album. The second one's not quite as good, but this is fantastic, and I will say that the vinyl version is better because it doesn't include the tracks Run and Sacrifice Yourself, which are not the best, which are on the CD. But this starts off with the almost bluesy Heavens in Here, which is very good, followed by Tin Machine, which is manic, and I think it's great. Prisoner of Love is a fantastic track. It was also a single. Crack City has got a bit of a Wild Thing feel to it, but really good. And I Can't Read, brilliant track. Under the God was the first single. It's one of the weakest off here, but it's still pretty good. Amazing, great, acoustic-y led song, but it's still heavy as hell. Working Class Hero sounds nothing like the John Lennon version, but I love this, and I think that's why I love it, because it's completely different. Bus Stop is about 1.5 minutes of brilliance, absolute brilliance. Pretty Thing, good track. Video Crimes, maybe that is the weakest one, and then Baby Can't Dance I think is a great track. This took me ages to get into. I remember buying this in '89 and then going over to Jersey to work as a barman, and I taped it on a C60 tape. And you know, I didn't like it at the start, but I played it and played it and played it, and I absolutely love this album, and it gets my number 3. And at number 2 we have The Beautiful South and Welcome to the Beautiful South, and there's 3 hit singles off this. Song for Whoever, which is a very clever song. I'll Sail This Ship Alone, which is gorgeous, and You Keep It All In, which is extremely melodic. The best track off this actually is Woman in the Wall, which I think is fantastic, really good, and it's vocals with Paul Heaton and Dave Hemingway. Love Is a good track as well, and I Love You But You're Boring I think is hilarious. From Under the Covers is one that sounds most like the House Martins, more guitar in it. And Have You Ever Been Away, a really good track. This is their best album, and I absolutely love it, and it gets my number 2. And my favourite album from 1989, and it is the fine young Cannibals, The Raw and the Cooked. And this is littered with hits as well, like She Drives Me Crazy is one of the best singles of the 80s. Really dated, but love it. Good Thing, absolutely love it as well. Very 60s sounding. I'm Not the Man I Used to Be I think is fantastic as well, and Don't Look Back was a hit single. Ever Fall in Love, the version of the Buzzcocks, I love it as well. I think I actually prefer this to the Buzzcocks. Well, I like the both of them, but there's other really great tracks as well, like I'm Not Satisfied and Don't Let It Get You Down and It's Okay. Really excellent album, and it's their second and last album. Their first album's pretty good too. So the fine young Cannibals, The Raw and the Cook gets my number 1. Okay, so that's my top 25 albums of 1989. I hope you enjoyed that. The next one will be 1979, and it will be at least a top 30. So for now, that's me, and I hope to have that 79 video very soon. All the best now. Bye bye.